Food and weight obsession can be exhausting. Losing weight, gaining weight, dieting, feeling like a failure because you missed a workout, binged, overate, or gained all the weight back. The cycle is endless and it can be maddening. But I'm here to say you can stop the mental madness. You can take back control of your food behaviors, but you have to face your fears, you have to ask for help, and make a change. I am Leslie M. Thornton, permanent weight loss coach from hpwl.co. This is Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, and I know you can make this happen. On this podcast, you will hear how to stop the mental madness, love your body, trust your food decisions so you can create a life of happiness, freedom, and inner peace. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, from scarcity mindset to abundance. This past week had a client who came on for her one-on-one session and said that she wanted to be coached out of her scarcity mindset. And what do I do? So obviously scarcity mindset can be all over our lives. Scarcity, not enough money, not enough food, not enough, which can add to our anxiety, right? And just cause us to have a really challenging time. So we got to think with the subconscious mind that our minds have been programmed since we were very young, and we're very impressionable as young people when we have minds that are ripe and ready to be formulated. And if you even think about it, that game that so many of us played as children, I know I played it myself, musical chairs. And, you'd run around, and if the music stopped and you didn't have a chair, like scarcity was wired in there of being like, oh gosh, I failed and I lost the game, and it's so sad and terrible to be the one, right? And that fear and that doom of looking for the chair. So totally innocent that a scarcity mindset gets wired in. It's pretty challenging to not have it be there. And of course, if you grew up with parents who had scarcity mindset around money, and so often money is attached to food. I know, for example, when my dad was starting a business, my mom said, we don't have enough money to order a pizza because we need to watch our finances and where they're going. Now, of course, we could have actually bought a pizza. She was trying to teach us just mindfulness and to support our dad and what he was up to for the family. And it gets wired in us as not enough, unsafe, okay, and all of these types of things. Now, what I really need you to understand when you are working on wiring your brain towards abundance instead of scarcity is that abundance actually comes from inside. So often we'll think that abundance is affiliated with money and having exuberance, or maybe material things will be showing up, but actually your external reality is just mirroring what is going on inside your body. I'll say that again, your external reality is mirroring what's going on inside yourself. So for example, if you look around to where you're living or the relationship that you're in or anything, the people that you encounter on a day-to-day basis, they are all reflections of how abundant you are feeling inside. Now, it's not an excuse to look at that and feel shame or guilt or disappointment or fear or making yourself wrong for not having something be more abundant on the outside, or it's just simply a feedback tool of what's going on there. And so when we actually learn how to master going inside the body and to find the abundance that already exists and support your mind in paying attention to what is already going well, to what is more than abundant, whether it's how much rain falls from the sky when it rains, if you live in places that rain, or how many leaves are on the trees, or how whatever you can think of how the universe operates in abundance, the stars in the sky, right? And yeah, just the amount of water droplets in the ocean, like abundance is everywhere in nature and it's its natural form. And so often as we're going through life, our brains can do what it does and get small and start buying into lots of misunderstandings that there is not enough. So couple tips on this for how to actually program your mind into an abundance mindset. Number one, just being aware that when you're in scarcity essentially means that you're feeling some type of anxiety going on in your body. So, say that you go to check your bank account and there's way less than you imagined, or you bounced a check, or something like this. And all of a sudden, you can feel that there is this shift in the way that you're feeling that most likely is not one that feels positive. And you can know in that moment that you may have shifted into scarcity. The reason that I want to tease that out a little bit, because so often I see it as being like, when you say I have scarcity mindset, it's kind of this blanket statement to kind of continue to buy into a larger belief that like there's something wrong with me and I am broken somehow, and like, or like just messed up as a result of my upbringing, and help me. Right. So, but when we actually tease it apart and we're like, okay, it's great to have the overall understanding of what scarcity mindset is, because I feel like people talk about it a lot these days in the personal development world, but then actually just be present to the body when that sensation comes in. And maybe even letting go of like scarcity mindset and just being like, okay, I'm out of alignment. I'm feeling not good. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling fearful. I'm, scared of the unknown, or whatever is coming through in that moment. So it's just using the body as your best biofeedback tool to know when, yes, you're in scarcity, but more so, it's just, I'm feeling not great. I'm not feeling in alignment. I'm feeling anxious, which so often, as I know all my listeners will get, when we feel scarcity or that pain or that, whatever it is from whatever happens externally, that's often when we will turn to food or turn to alcohol as a way to numb out on that sensation. So that's when we also get addictions kicking in, right? And then it can be just that huge vicious cycle that continues, where it continues to build on itself, of you just being hard on yourself and saying, I'm really broken. There's something really wrong. I'm an addict. And then it's like we're all out here with definitions and terms of what you're telling yourself, and it just makes matters worse. So I'd like to get us away from the concepts of us analyzing and understanding what's going on, because consider the fact that you're doing that. You're analyzing and understanding and diagnosing yourself, or getting diagnoses from doctors or whoever, is actually just distancing yourself away from the solution, which I'm going to give you some tips now for that solution. So we know that this is something that's occurring in the body. So just go ahead and take a second right now, maybe for even talking about the topic of scarcity. Now you may be feeling some of that anxiety or angst or anger or sadness or whatever that manifests to you as being in your body now. You just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And just feeling into the body, and just say, I allow this anxiety in my body now. Or you're allowed to feel anxious in my body now. You're allowed to feel angry in my body now. You're allowed to feel scarcity in my body now. You're allowed to feel not enoughness in my body now. And it sounds a little strange, like, because I actually want you to say you're allowed to, like, you say those exact words to yourself. You're allowed to feel anxious, because oftentimes We think that when the anxiety there, it's like you become your emotion, right? But it's actually just a part of you that's fighting for your survival. There's a part of you that thinks you're actually going to die if you don't take action fast. There's a part of you that thinks that you aren't going to survive if, you know, situation doesn't change instantaneously. And it's petrifying, but it's not who you are. It's actually not who you are at all. Who you are is abundance. Who you are is endless possibilities. Who you are is universal consciousness and part of this amazing, complex ecosystem we're all a part of in this universal existence. Okay. And then, normal that in our human existence, our humanity, that we can get zapped out of that and out of that knowing. And a way to quickly get yourself back into that knowing is to be there and say, you are allowed to feel anxious, because whatever that part, it's that part of you is allowed to feel anxious, right? So it's essentially like you kind of getting to be there for your little child who might be, flashing back to there not being another musical chair to sit on. Okay. So, and loving and reparenting them and being like, you're allowed to be anxious in my body now. You're allowed to be angry in my body now. You're allowed to be sad in my body now. You're allowed to be disappointed in my body now. And just continuing that allowance of whatever you are noticing coming up and up and up, and doing it again and again and again and again. Because then once you get to that point, then all of a sudden you can kind of hit a level of neutrality. I was just coaching someone else today, and we were talking about actually how to get yourself to that space of neutrality and the importance of just naming it. And she was getting stuck. This client was getting stuck where she was like, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I've been sick for months. And I'm not as productive as I need to be, and I'm not making the money I need to make, and I'm wasting money by being in this program, and I'm not able to actually do the tasks that I need to do. Right. And she was like, and I know that I shouldn't feel this way, and I said, do you want to know your ticket out? So this would be a version of scarcity for her as well. It's like, it's to allow and accept all of those feelings you're having now. So I had her, same thing, close her eyes. You're allowed to feel anxious in my body now. You're allowed to feel angry in my body. You're allowed to feel disappointed in my body now. You're allowed to feel fearful in my body now. And I had her just do it until she emptied out. And she's like, okay, great. Now what? And she was like, well, I think I'll go for the run that I was planning on going on now. Okay. Like got back to the present moment. So the number one way to stay stuck in scarcity, to stay stuck in fear, is to try to get out of it. Okay. The way to get out of it is to go towards it and to say it's allowed. It's allowed and you're safe, and just to remind yourself of that. So that's my number one tip for how to get back into the abundance mindset. Also for yourself to have goals for yourself, or a goal of where you're headed towards and who you're becoming. So, what is your 10x version of yourself, or what is your highest version of yourself? And most likely, if you've never done any kind of visualization to find out who your highest self is, or how they feel, or what they exude when you're around them, you could Google it and find a million, that come to mind. Highly recommends. And then it's like really allowing yourself to, like, imagining yourself stepping in as that woman, as that human being, right? And then choosing to make decisions in your life based on who they are and how they would handle it from their space of being abundant, confident, connected, peaceful human beings. And then just choosing to radiate out that vibe as much as possible. So, I've just heard an interview where this woman, she was like the first Black female sales, top in sales or something in her, I forget what it is, something amazing that she was up to. And she was talking about how sometimes she would bump into not feeling worthy of doing it. And she said that her key to success was putting sticky notes all around her house, just reminding herself who she is. right? Because so often it comes from that lack, that fear we get, the scarcity brings us into the small self, and then we can't think clearly, right? But when you actually take a step back and you remove yourself from a scenario, remove yourself from trying to figure out your bank account or your numbers or how to, solve some problem that you're just really emotionally upset by and triggered by, remove yourself, do something completely different, right? Oftentimes, like meditate, get it back into your body, right? It's huge to get back into your body, and just like whatever that practice is for you. If you don't have one, highly recommend you have some sort of meditation or self-centering practice in your life. And then come back and then notice how in those moments where you actually quiet yourself and you get back into remembering who you are, infinite possible source, ultimately loved by the universe, then you'll have these ideas that just pop in, or you'll get back to looking at your numbers and you can make all the things work. The last story I'll share is this past summer. I think I've shared on the podcast before, but I was having major money scarcity things coming up. Just lots and lots and lots, which I'm so grateful for, because it forced me to put the actions and systems in place where tax season is upon us now. And I was actually just able to have all of the tax money just ready to go easily, sending checks out and depositing things to get all of my quarterly business taxes in place. Whereas previously that was not set, where twice a month I'd be setting apart a certain percentage. I didn't have that. So always blessings in our most stressful times. So that was on the practical side of what I did. The other mental, emotional, spiritual side of what I did was deciding to surrender. So realizing that for myself, I've never not been able to make something work for myself financially in the past. So why would that change right now? Why would all of a sudden I become broke and homeless and, have to completely fail or, close down the business? Like, why would that be the case right now? So it's kind of like looking at your track record. And if you're a super responsible human being, right, you always make things happen, somehow, even if it's stressful, then it's like, okay, then what we get to see for ourselves and what I got to see for myself was that if I didn't do something drastically different, that my inevitable future was going to be that I was always going to be stressed and anxious about money anytime that I saw my bank account go down. So that, financial abundance, and then also food, body, and weight stuff. So there's can be similarities where a lot of similarities. So, there was a time that when the scale went up, I completely lost my mind and had the same kind of spiral and tailspin, right? That no longer happens anymore. Or when the scale went down, I was super happy and confident and radiant. Okay, now it's like, okay, it stays around the same and I feel pretty good, regardless, and just can easily tweak stuff, if things aren't, doing the right thing. And that was never going to happen. So consider the fact that the same thing is possible in this area of abundance or in finances or money, but not without some hard work and doing your due diligence to get past those hard things. So I told myself that for 1 month, I was not allowed to entertain worry and panic about finances. That I was just going to, when I noticed the fear and anxiety and scarcity coming up, I would do that very thing. I would say, you're allowed to feel anxious in my body now. You're allowed to feel panicked in my body now. You're allowed to feel fear in my body now. You're allowed to feel sadness you're allowed to feel disappointment in my body now. And I just did that for a whole month over and over again, and said, I'm a woman of faith and I believe that, I will be supported and things will work out. And it was terrifying, but I was surrendered to it. And sure enough, end of the month, everything worked out, got what we needed, still was able to pay the team, right? Still paid all my bills, and everything was fine. And so because I was willing and am continuously willing to face those fears and go towards that pain versus trying to solve it and figure it out outside my body, my abundance consciousness continues to raise. And I continue to just trust the actions that I'm taking to continue to get better and more savvy with my financial life. And while I'm still on that journey, I look forward to the day where I'm no longer going to, I'll be affected the same way that weight no longer affects me, and to be living consistently from that abundance space. And I've made leaps and bounds so far, and actually just enrolled in another mastermind that I know is going to take me to the next level, because my coach has actually just said in one of her modules that she has now actually mastered, where she is constantly living in the abundance mindset, rather than, some days she feels abundant and some days not so much. So I think also knowing for yourself that it is possible to get there, but it's more about, instead of like, how do I get rid of it now? It's the due diligence. It's the mixture of the actions to make better financial decisions, getting any support that you need to set up systems, to lessen your anxiety around that area of your life. And the same thing, applies with food, where if a lot of times we're eating because you've put that mentality in your mind that you're never allowed to eat this food ever again because it's bad, because it's wrong, because whatever. And then you're basically setting yourself up for failure, because as soon as your brain believes that you're never going to be able to have this food again, when you make that choice to be bad and have it that one time, then you're going to eat so much more. So actually giving yourself unconditional permission to say, you're allowed to eat this, enjoy it. You're allowed to have this every day of the week if you want to. You're allowed to eat Taco Bell every day of the week if that's what you want. And this magical thing happens that when you actually allow it, you're actually allowed to taste it. You're allowed to enjoy it without all the mental chatter just immediately saying, this is bad, this is wrong, you shouldn't, how terrible, you're going to gain weight, blah, blah, blah. You're never actually present with that food. Right. And then it just makes it so that scarcity gets more and more and more, because you feel like you, A, never eat it, and B, you're making yourself so wrong and saying you can never eat it again. So then it's just this huge snowball effect. So allowing all the food, allowing all the feelings, right? And living from that space of there is more than enough, and holding that vision of who you are being, who is your ideal self that you are wanting to step into now, right? And how does she act, and how does she want to feel, or he, right? And just continuing to put in the reps, put in the work. But I think, and not paying attention to this story out here with concepts, when really what we need to do is master our inner world, master our emotions and how to be with what is, and trust that you will and always have been and always will be taken care of, are safe, are loved just as you are, perfect, whole, and complete. And from there, anything, absolutely anything is possible. I love you so much, and we'll see you next time. If you are serious about taking action on your struggle with food, body, and weight, then this is for you. Go ahead and text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483. Immediately after texting that number, you will get access to our free training that will tell you why you can't figure the food, body, and weight thing out, why you can't keep weight off even after you've been successful in the past, and how to actually overcome it, including a mini hypnosis session at the end. Don't miss out. Text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483.